Hello everyone, we're in Vaxholm,
yes.
Island across the channel, and behind us there's so many patriarchal symbols.
Yes, they have really been very problematic because they've only made cannons shaped like male genitals.
And then they added that hate symbol that some people call it the Swedish flag.
Yeah. They should have one of those beautiful flags with like the hammer and the sickle on it.
Yeah.
That's more tolerant.
Yeah,
more
that would be more inclusive. Yeah. So tell me, what is we're looking at?
Well, this is the fortress of Vaxholm. My history is a bit rusty, so I don't remember when it was built, but it was built for the obvious purpose that it commands most of the approaches to Stockholm. So that's what all the phallic hate symbols are for, basically. I mean, if we're going to go full southern turn or full retard, but I guess I repeated myself there. If we're going to go full southern turn, then you could say that it's very problematic that rigid, long and hard phallic symbols shoot metallic sperms at the soft hulls, the soft feminine hulls of oncoming enemy ships.
Yeah, so
that's very hateful and it should be changed.
Yeah, so how do we make these more progressive? Should we make vagina-shaped cannons?
I'm not sure about the ballistics of that. But you know, going by how, because we spoke about this in another video, how KTH is becoming more and more insane with their feminism every year. Maybe they're going to devote a lot of research into developing something like
The
that.
feminist polytechnic. I wouldn't be surprised to see this happening within 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Today it's satire, but then again Tumblr was satire 7 years ago.
Yeah, more than that. I mean, Duckman actually had an episode making fun of identity politics, if you remember.
No,
the show,
it was like
how a
to-
sewer worker was arrested for sexual misconduct today for referring to his manhole.
Yeah, that was in 2008, and nowadays you can actually expect that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not arrested, but fined, at least in New York, for misgendering.
Yeah.
So, we don't know when this was built. I'll find out and put, put it in the description.
I mean, there's bound to be a Wikipedia page for it. I could look it up now, but it'd be a bit disruptive for me to look into my telephone.
Okay.
But so it commands all approaches except one. I think that's called Oxdjupet, the Ox Deep. And in the grand tradition of practical solutions, because this was at the point when, you know, Sweden actually cared about its military, not like today when the junior coalition partner in the government wants to essentially destroy what little there is left. They simply threw boulders into that one branch of seawater until it became too shallow
for any boat to cross it. Yeah, I see.
Yes, and I think the feminists would actually approve of that, because then it's, you know, the phallic boat trying to cross through the soft feminist water, feminine water.
Yeah.
So it's some kind of symbolic cock blocking.
Yeah.
So.
And also Miljöpartiet would approve it, because, you know, the rocks are still green. Right. Surprisingly small number of tourists. It isn't a popular destination, or is it just too far from?
It is a popular one, but maybe a lot of people don't have holidays today, and it is a weekday, so you have a lot of people from Stockholm coming here during the weekends. But
it's probably less crowded. But still, the decor is nice. I mean, one of the, I guess, leitmotifs of this trip was to be like, nice country, too bad it's populated. Because the decor is just nice. I mean, it really is. At least in the summer. I presume it's not really that
I mean, it's
honky-dory in December.
I mean, it really depends. It can be very beautiful if, you know, it's a proper winter, but, you know, if it's like it has been for some time now, you know, Sweden has 2 seasons, the green winter and the grey winter, then it's not very nice at all to come here during anything except the summer months. But I can imagine it's very pretty if you have, you know, well, to use a very problematic expression, if you have a white Christmas, then it's
nice, But as I was saying, the decor is just nice. I mean, it's I don't know what the word is in English. Soothing, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
I mean, the Archipelago is really beautiful. It's a pity we couldn't hit it properly. We might go, depending on how long the boat trip is, how much time it takes. We could go with a boat on the way back, but you have to make it back to your podcast, of course. So.
Yeah, when we're filming this is Friday, June the 13th, I guess, something like that.
I hope it's not the 13th, because I'm superstitious.
Anyway, about 6 or 7 hours from now, I have the live Voice of Europe podcast. And also there's these birds. I keep on asking, why is the food so freely roaming around? Why is it not in the kitchen with a proper chef?
No, that's how that's how you can trigger vegans. You know, you say that, you know, all animals have a place in God's kingdom on a plate.
Yeah, right next to my mashed potatoes, there's always room for all God's creatures. Yeah, there's always room for them. But seriously, I mean, this particular bird that you can see in the image right now, this one is very, very noisy. This is the one you keep listening to when you hear it in the background.
I think it's a feminist bird complaining about the patriarchal canon.
Could be. I mean, it sounds like a fee leader. It pretty much sounds. Yeah, tonight in the podcast I have a news about fee boycotting Almedalen. Too bad that we didn't go but we couldn't. It was on Saturday. What did we do last Saturday? I don't even remember.
Oh
no, we roamed around Stockholm in the center. Yeah, we should have gone on Saturday because Fi held speeches at the Järva political. On Saturday was their day. Yeah. We went on Monday when it was Miljöpartiet day, which was not that fun. The Fi day would have been much better.
I mean, it's that new party leader Victoria Kavesa, who is famous for plagiarizing. I mean, this was so pathetic. Plagiarizing a gender studies paper or something. I mean. We could write an original one. We did it just now. It's like, oh, it's very post-colonial and problematic to have all these phallic, rigid, long cannons. It's an expression of male dominance of the feminine. And it is marginalizing and exclusive for exclusionary for transgender women of color in wheelchairs.
No need for plagiarism, but I guess
I mean, I think that you have to maybe it's not that you lack knowledge, because I mean no knowledge required to write something like that, but maybe you lack fantasy. You can just bullshit your way through it, just no holes barred. Just go into it with a mindset that you're easily offended and want to complain.
No, that's basically it.
And I usually say that, well, if you were going to plagiarize something, why not plagiarize the policy papers of other parties to make Fi more reasonable?
More votable in the end,
well, still. Not necessarily more votable, because all the hipsters on Södermalm are going to vote for them anyway. The crazier the party policy becomes, the more votes they're going to get from there. But more reasonable, it's not like, oh, we are going to dismantle the armed forces and have LGBTQ, A, B, C, D, E, F, G groups mediate conflicts.
Yeah, because I'm sure Putin will be very scared when you throw rainbow flags at it. And
I mean, he could be scared of, no, I don't think he could be scared at all of anything. Possibly of, the propaganda value for the LGBTQ to get into
I think I found a way for Sweden to conquer Russia. Just invade them deport all the faggots in Russia. That would be too much even for the state apparatus in Russia. Just deport them all at once.
Well, I mean, the thing is that, in all fairness, Sweden would become better, but I'm not sure that Russia could become worse, a bit worse, maybe, because I mean they've already got Islamism. The last thing they need is more feminism. But
but they would create a very nice conflict in there, and I would leave us all the others alone. So that would be nice. They would be busy cleaning up that mess. Oh, another aspect that is nice, and I'm probably going to get hanged by discriminating ombudsman for this, but there is no diversity here. Which is nice. I mean, this part of Stockholm just lacks diversity. We saw a few Americans and a few Chinese tourists, but that was pretty much it. I mean, otherwise, there's no diversity, which is great.
Well, I'll have I identify as a refugee, so...
Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah, we're Kyrgyzstani refugees, so there's that. But still not diverse enough. I mean, where is the... I've seen no burqas in here, so...
no, I mean... You can probably see them. I mean, it's not that far from the capital. It's a popular tourist destination whenever it isn't. So you could probably end up seeing it, but I guess it's a bit more of a rarity here than in Rinkeby, to put it mildly.
or in Göteborg Centralstationen. Probably by the time I publish this video, the ones from Göteborg will already be published. I think, I hope, I have no idea. The thing is that I'll eventually publish on the channel the images from the central station in Göteborg. Holy fucking shit, there were literally no suites there. And it's in the middle of the city, for crying out loud. And that's depressing. I mean, it's a good thing that we came all the way here, because at least here it's not depressing. I mean, it's really refreshing to get to videotape things that in the capital city that are actually Swedish.
And also, in fairness, this isn't really the capital city. I mean, it's part of the greater suburban area, but it's not really part of the capital city.
But still, it's
Täby
close.
At a stretch is part of the capital city. But
okay, but still, I mean, it's close enough.
Yeah.
And it is part of the metropolitan area, so there's that. which is nice. And of course, what I appreciate the most is that there are no modernist crap here, no cubes.
Yeah.
I think we saw one.
Yeah,
but it was in the
two.
port, in the bay. Yeah. But otherwise, no cubes.
Well,
okay, even those.
I mean, the advantage here is that it's always kind of been a conservative-ish municipality. It hasn't been like Stockholm, which has had its fair share of socialist lunacy throughout the 70s, 80s, 90s, and to this very day. I mean, right now the Red Greens plus the Feminist Initiative control City Hall in Stockholm. You can never see that happening in Vaxholm, I think.
Yeah.
And even then, I mean, you know, it's a small municipality. They're very proud of their historical buildings. I don't see them demolishing the fortress to build like a massive communist mental asylum-looking housing complex for the.
För den svenskarna.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I could be wrong though, but as I said, Sweden is generally moving in the right direction, primarily because more and more people are starting to talk about problems. I think you mentioned it at some point.
Yeah, I haven't
in
mentioned
Gothenburg.
it. I haven't mentioned it on camera, but the thing is that I haven't met even strangers that I got into talking with. You know, they ask for a lighter or whatnot, and we exchange a few words. I haven't seen anyone using seriously the word "new svenskar." And in Göteborg, in the central square, about 2 kilometers away from Centralstationen, virtually all the people that I overheard speaking about this, they were talking about the mass immigration issue.
And not in a positive way.
And not in a positive way, including the immigrants, well, at least the white immigrants.
The Polish.
Yeah, the Polish, the Romanians, the Ukrainians, the Germans, there were a few Germans, a few Czechs. But even those ones were talking about the issue of mass immigration, most of them in Swedish. That's something that was completely impossible to imagine last time I was here. So in 2011, it was completely impossible to imagine to see in the center of a big city this happening. It was just impossible to imagine.
I keep hearing people speak like that, both, when I most recently, a while back, when I biked to the gym, there were two senior citizens passing by, and obviously the senior citizens have more reason than most to be upset, given that, you know, the amazing economic policy of receiving so many people that are unsuited for the Swedish labor market will completely deplete their pensions, and they just talked about, you know, this is stupid, this is ridiculous, it has to stop. So it's generally, it's not like in, as you said, and I think all the way until 2014, 2015, late 2015, think about the summer of 2015, Stefan Löfven, my Europe doesn't build walls, and then 3 months later
he closes the border. The thing, in Göteborg I had the chance to speak with several people who didn't want to speak on camera, but nevertheless we got to have a coffee and a beer and whatnot. You know, working class men, middle-aged working class men, and to them it was still surprising, even though, I mean, many of them were militant egalitarian leftists 3 years ago, and all of them now sounded pretty much like me. And to them it was still a shock, even though they have slowly came to the right side of politics. But nevertheless, to them it was still astounding, the fact that for 40 years, and to many of them for the entirety of their lives up until 2014, 2015, to them it was easy. I mean, Socialdemokraterna was the obvious choice whenever the elections would come. No, the Social Democrats were mostly concerned about senior citizens and working class people. And then they suddenly realized that somewhere along the way there was a sudden shift, and no more giving a shit about senior citizens, and the working class people, especially working class men, white working class men, suddenly became the enemy.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's like, you know, the grand coalition with Åsa Romson, you know, and Almedal in 2014. Every problem in the world is caused by men, and it makes women suffer. Yeah,
I marked that on my podcast back in 2014. It was astounding. I don't know. The fact that that political party still has voters is surprising.
Well, in all fairness, most opinion polls put them at below the 4% benchmark, so they're probably going to disappear in 2018.
That's a good news I've been looking forward to in the last 6 years or so, just to see Miljöpartiet outside of the Riksdagen.
The ideal result is actually Miljöpartiet decreases to 3.9, which is just below the limit, and Fi increases to 3.9, which is just below the limit. So,
yeah, and all their votes get redistributed to Sverigedemokraterna. Yeah. That would be nice to see. I still don't know right now, but I would love to come here next August when the election campaign comes. Because I really hope Hunnesson is right, and in that election campaign all the dirty laundry will come out in the public.
I mean, it's already coming out, you see, because more and more people are commenting. I think it was Lena Melin in Aftonbladet, and Aftonbladet being, the Pravda on the Mälaren,
yeah, basically.
Or whatever. And she said,
it's a former newspaper.
And she talked about what Anna Kinberg Batra said at the Järva event, where we didn't go because we only went one day, and how she addressed the sexual offenders among the new arrivals, said that we're not going to tolerate this or something, and they said, some people might say that she's a Sweden Democrat, but she's just making sense. No. But even there's the implicit connection that the Sweden Democrats have been making sense all along, and
it's gonna be fun to watch, now that we're on the topic of the next election. It's gonna be fun to watch, and that's why I would really love to be in Sweden and watch it from first hand. We'll see if we can afford that. But it's gonna be fun to watch, especially the more moderate Social Democrats, and of course the entirety of the Moderaterna. It's gonna be fun for them to watch and say, we always believed these things.
And it wasn't like in 2014 we said that we should open our hearts and open our borders, and I mean it's such an amazing thing to see. It's a delayed response, really, because in 2014, think about it. The Sweden Democrats said we need to close the borders. This was in 2014, not in 2015 when they actually did it. Late 2015. It was throughout 2014. Close the borders, prohibit begging, and all sorts of reforms. And I was like, that's so racist! No, we're not going to do it. And then over the course of the next few years, everything that the Sweden Democrats proposed in terms of immigration, integration, begging and so on, they've quietly adopted it. And I think that they're really banking everything on the hope that the Swedish electorate has room temperature IQ and doesn't understand that they're basically adopting Sweden Democrat policies that they decried as racist 2 years ago.
Yeah. On the economics, and this is my concern, I mean, on the economic front, SD is still way to the left. Because as I was saying, Sverigedemokraterna would be the moderate left in the intermarium. I mean, the liberal platform in Poland, which I regard them as the left of Poland, are still way to the right of SD.
Well, but you gotta put it in the context that the entire political spectrum in Sweden is skewed to the left.
Yeah, it's very close to the leftist pole. The whole spectrum is in the leftist pole. And then there's Sverigedemokraterna, which is a bit outside of the leftist pole.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to look at it from the point of view that, now the suggestion, raising taxes on income, and they're raising them covertly, because usually the income tax brackets were adjusted by inflation plus some percentage points, so that you wouldn't get into the higher bracket just because your salary increased. Well, they've kind of scrapped the automatic increase of the tax bracket, so more and more people are going to end up paying the higher income tax levels. And now they also want to completely hike the small business tax, because Sweden has a very unfavorable tax rate for small businesses, because of course a worker that starts his own business is an enemy of the trade unions.
Yeah, and the state.
Yeah, so they have to get punished. So now they wanted to completely destroy what little there is left of small-scale entrepreneurship in Sweden, and the Sweden Democrats surprisingly opposed both.
Yeah, and also I saw another policy, I don't know where I read it, I think it was on Fria Tider. Some Sweden Democrats favor a thing of scrapping the entirety of the income tax for less than 100,000 krona.
I think that's the proposal from actually some very famous representatives has been that all income taxes up to 150,000 a year,
or 150,
should be completely tax-free.
It should be zero, yeah.
Yeah, it should be zero. And it's actually a very reasonable thing, because there is a so-called minimum income that you can have in Sweden. It was supposed to be the minimum thing you can survive on, but it wasn't inflation pegged, and now it's less than
the poverty rate.
I mean, it's less than the lowest blue blue-collar monthly wage. I mean, let's say you're a janitor and you work and you get 18,000 a month. What you can earn in Sweden is about 16,000 a year, tax-free. And then you start paying municipal and everything.
Well, in that case, in order for it to make sense, the proposal should not be at 150k, should be at around 250k.
Yeah.
To incentivize smaller businesses.
Well, yeah, it should be. And I mean, it should in general be so that, you know, because everyone's like, oh my God, you know, because as a businessman, you can take out a lot of your revenue as, you know...
Deductions.
No, I mean, I guess you can call it utdelning. I don't know what that would be in English.
A business expense.
No, I mean a dividend, you know, like you give out to the shareholder. Yeah.
But that's also business expense.
Yeah, but I mean, you can give it out like that, and this is unfair because the tax rates are slightly lower than for workers.
Yeah, because it's considered capital gain, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the problem is, well, you don't have any kind of job security as an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
so it makes perfect sense for you to have at least slightly lower tax rates.
Yeah, because you can make 3 million krona this year, but next year you could be making 50k or zero.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, you know, it's the Social Democrats. They hate small entrepreneurs. They don't dare to mess with the big guys. So the big guys, I mean, that was so unfair about the new tax proposals. They were benefiting big companies because you can't mess with those because they just move abroad.
Yeah, this is literally fascism. I mean, it's corporatism the way Benito Mussolini imagined it.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is that most of the wealth Sweden enjoys today is as a result of free enterprise, of capitalist policies adopted in the 30s, essentially, or in the 20s, when Moderaterna was actually conservative.
Or even up until I would say until the 40s, when the Social Democrats still had, because until the 60s the tax rate in Sweden was comparable with the United States.
Yeah, I know, well.
So, you know, no trade barriers and low tax rates. And then Olof Palme comes and says, oh, we'll have capitalism without capitalists.
All of the bollocks started basically in 56 when they started subverting the press, and then from 65 onwards it was all the capitalism without capitalists, and then all the business with the welfare state that will take care of everyone by what was it, from the moment you're born,
cradle to the grave.
That's right, cradle to the grave welfare state, which is basically we're gonna treat our citizens like children.
Yeah, and more to the point, like property. That's why a lot of these ridiculous moralist laws tend to originate in Sweden, like the famous Nordic model on prostitution, which essentially says you're the property of the state.
Yeah.
You don't have the mental faculty required to make your own decisions.
It's really interesting. I mean, the most feminist country in the world has a law that essentially makes some people, I wouldn't say men or women, because as we already know, we know, most of the public still hasn't learned that most of the people selling sex in Sweden are actually men.
Yeah.
But it essentially makes a certain section of the population of Sweden literally the property of the state.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Soviet Union didn't go that far.
Well,
I mean, sure, they would kidnap you and whatnot, but after Khrushchev,
de-Stalinization.
The de-Stalinization process, basically 1970s Soviet Union was more or less like Sweden. Of course, it was poorer because their economics were crappier, but on the social level, it was pretty much the same thing. I mean, when I write on social media that Sweden is basically the modern-day DDR, I usually get called out, that's an exaggeration. Yeah, there are some problems, but it's not really that bad. Is it, though? I mean, I was reading yesterday on Nyheter Idag about that pensioner, the 66-year-old lady
who was in Folkets demonstration, and now she's being harassed by the media.
Yeah, and she wrote a politically incorrect comment on some obscure website 2 years ago, and they dug up that comment from 2 years and a half ago. It was on February 2015, and they dug up that comment because she wrote something about mass immigration, how it's a bad idea and whatnot, which was true. And then they said, oh my god, but the website might be neo-Nazi. And I'm like, and okay, maybe, but the thing is that even if that was true, her next comment was about how anti-Semitism is a bad idea, and how basically this is why she opposed mass immigration, because many of the new svenskar now tend to not really like the Jude that much. And she was giving the example of the Jews in Malmö.
Yeah, precisely. They're running away, and of course the Swedish left has been trying, at least they're trying to change now. They're starting to change now, but for some time, you know, it's like, oh, the Jews are running away from Malmö, and it's probably the Nazis.
Yeah, well, it was the Nazis, but it was the Nazis that prayed to Allah, not the... And anyway, for these comments and for that Folkedemonstration, she was called a Nazi, and she was called a Nazi in Dagens Kukhete. That means almost everyone in Sweden read about her and her full name and her picture. This reminds me of a practice that was very, very famous in the 80s in the Intermarium. For instance, I remember it because that article is still now, it circulates on the internet. There was a guy who worked around the food rationing program of this Romanian communist state, and he basically had more cooking oil and a little bit more flour and bread than what the official rations would allow. And someone ratted him out on the Securitate, and they came and raided his house and found that he's been stockpiling a little bit more food than what the state would allow you to have. Yes, that was communism for us.
Fel värdegrund.
Yeah. And essentially what they did was they posted his picture and his full name and his address and his city where he was living in Tăgumoiș, I think. And the title was "He Deserves Public Opprobrium." And then his name, his picture, and his crime, which is, oh my god, he's been hoarding food and trying to make a capitalist thing out of it. He maybe tried to sell it. They couldn't prove that he was trying to sell it, and according to himself, he was like, no, I was just trying to avoid starving to death. But maybe he was, so what? But that was the practice in the Intermarium, and that was the same thing was happening in the DDR. And this is what happens now in Sweden. If you have the politically incorrect opinion, if you wrote a comment on some website 2-3 years ago, the mainstream media will dig it out and call you a Nazi for it, and basically dox you. And under these conditions, yeah, it is pretty much a good idea that more and more people are waking up, because, well, you can dox, if there are 1% dissenters, you can dox them all and hope that the public pressure and the epilogue and tradition will silence them. But if it's 25%, 30%,
it's a bit harder. And I mean, honestly, I'll have to say that I think that it doesn't really work anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't work anymore.
The thing is, and there was this debate between Alice Teodorescu and Jan Helin not long ago, and they discussed, among other things, why does media in Sweden enjoy so little confidence from the public? Oh my god, I wonder why. It's one of life's great mysteries.
Well, in full fairness, the mainstream media all over Europe has been collapsing in trust. I mean, I used this as a topic in my speech at the International Men's Conference last year in London, and I was giving the example of Norway, Romania, Croatia, France and Italy. So basically it doesn't matter, it's north, east, south, central, everywhere the trust of the public in the media is somewhere between 20 and 30, and 30 is the upper limit. It's usually
I think
more
it's
like
actually lower in Sweden.
Lower than 20, yeah, it was like 17 last time I think Nyheter Idag had an article about that. It's not a surprise. Yeah, and I remember that debate with Alice Teodorescu, because it was the same debate where they were discussing on how alternative media and foreign media are creating a negative image of Sweden. And
I think that's another one though, because that one was Anders Lindberg.
With the one from Aftonbladet.
This is very recent. It's the one with Jan Helin. There was a big bickering. You know, Anna Hedenmo from SVT accused Jan Helin of hiding the truth about immigration. So hello, pot, meat, kettle. but and then Jan Helin went on the defensive, like, oh, we haven't lied about anything. We've told the truth about absolutely everything.
Sure you did, honey.
And there was this debate between Alice Teodorescu and Jan Helin, and well, fundamentally she said, well, look, until the great migrant crisis of 2015, you did everything you could to keep the lid on, to shut people up. Everyone who disagreed was racist. And you know, I think that I don't know if it was during that debate or another, but she even gave at some point examples, saying, well, look at me, look at Ivar Arpi, look at, you know, all these people who have actually spoken out, and, you know, we've been called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and that's the nicest thing we've been called.
Yeah.
So,
and that's true. I mean, I remember when I started reading the works of and following the work of Alice Teodorescu, she's still being called names now, but in the beginning it was absolutely horrifying, the things that they wrote about her, and the other one with the Hungarian name,
Ivar Arpi.
Ivar Arpi, they dragged his family into it, and they lied about his taxes and whatnot. And the guy who founded Nyheter also had problems like this. They accused him of tax dodging and whatnot. And I was reading that, and I'm like, well, I hope he is tax dodging. I mean, you
can't blame them for wanting to see where the money goes nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, and considering the taxation level in Sweden, I mean, I believe all taxation is theft, but there is at some point when legitimate self-defense becomes necessary. I mean, you're stealing 80% of my income. Are you kidding me? Of course I'm gonna try to hide some of it. What I do hope to see within the next decade, I think, is this destruction of this worship for the state. Because this is the thing, you know, some of the oldest backers of this channel are Frenchmen, and they keep on asking me to speak about France and criticizing. They're saying, oh, look, France is so statist and that's depressing and whatnot. Mate, you haven't seen statism until you come to Sweden. And believe me.
And that's very true. And I think at some point, I don't remember who said it, but I think it was a Swedish person who said that Norway is the last Soviet dictatorship. No, man. This is Sweden.
Well, at the moment, I do remember that. I don't remember the name, but I could check it out. But no, at that time, it was true. Norway was more socialistic than Sweden. Yeah. But since then, Sweden has continued down the path of socialism, whereas Norway at the very least stopped.
Yeah, and they've gone the opposite way for the past 4 years.
For the past 4 years, I hope that's going to be 8. There's elections in Norway soon enough.
I mean, but I think there's a difference in attitude as well. I mean, because let's take an example. You know, we mentioned the retarded anti-prostitution laws in Sweden. You know, no debate allowed. If you're for decriminalization, it doesn't matter the UN, the World Health Organization, Amnesty, and the sex workers support you, because you're a horrible person if you don't support the feminist bullshit. In Norway, there was a case because they copied our laws and actually made them stricter. So it's illegal to buy abroad as well. And of course, it's a completely toothless law. It's like an 80-year-old woman from Chernobyl with scurvy.
Yeah.
But I mean, only one person has been caught doing it abroad. A politician from Fremskrittspartiet. You know?
Of course.
And all of the media in Norway, which was pretty cathedral left-wing at the time, oh, he's done. He's not going to make it through. Guess what? There was a massive outpouring of support on social media. They renominated him unanimously, and they went on to win the elections together with Høyre. In Sweden, if you get caught, you essentially, what is expected of you, I hope that's going to change, because it has changed on drug policy. You know, a lot of people say, yeah, I've smoked weed. Fuck you, I don't care. So, but in Sweden, if you violate this law, it's expected you should say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm so ashamed, it was a mistake.
And crawl back in a hole somewhere.
I mean, my ambition in life is, well, it's not my only ambition, I don't set the benchmark that low, but my ambition in life is to become famous, to violate that law, and be on national television and say, yeah, I broke that law, fuck you, I don't care. That's gotta be precedent setting. Someone has set the precedent.
Yeah, basically. But no, what I mean it is in much more general terms. That is to say, the entirety of the state worshipping. Because as you've told me, basically, if you rape someone here, yeah, that's bad. But if you get caught tax evading, oh my God, that's murder. That's a lot worse than rape.
Yeah, I mean, it's there have been some notable cases. I mean, obviously you can't get a very good impression from how the court reasoned from newspaper articles, so I try to avoid being too judgmental about what they did and said. But there are some cases that sound fucking frightening. You know, you're a 17-year-old and you rape a child, and you get away with community service, 20 days. So it's
amazing.
So, I mean, obviously, you know, as I said, it's very hard to determine how they thought based on newspaper articles, but that sounds absolutely absurd.
Yeah, well, Dagens juridik tends to be a bit more friendly with details.
Yeah.
But still, yeah. But this kind of worshipping, oh my God, you're avoiding taxes, that's really, really bad. These kinds of things really need to go.
Yeah.
And this is not a battle of policy or judiciary. It is a policy of, it is a battle of culture. The culture needs to change a little bit.
Yeah, the worship of the state.
No, it is the culture of worship of the state. So that's what I'm saying to the French backers. You haven't seen statism.
It's like the brutalist video, you know, the Church of the Holy State.
Yeah.
I was half joking actually. I wasn't joking.
Yeah, there was an official policy by, I think it was also the Social Democrats, who said, well, look, we cannot ban religion like they did in Russia. So we're gonna subvert it. We're gonna infiltrate it, and
that's precisely what they did.
Yeah,
that's like the priest that wrote an article in Dagens Nyheter and just said, "Oh, we shouldn't celebrate the national holiday anymore because it's patriarchal and it's exclusionary and it's."
That's Svenska kyrkan, the Church of Sweden. You know.
Though I think that, you know, if they were, it's a good thing for them that they're so to speak a non-profit organization, because I think if they were a commercial organization, it could be sued for fraud because they are neither Swedish nor a church.
Fair enough. You know, the place is so depressing that when I found a church that belongs to Svenska kyrkan, that actually looked like a church, it didn't look like a cube, I was like, yes! And quick, get a tripod. Let's videotape it until it goes away. Because soon enough, I expect them to take down the cross from it. And
well, I mean, that's what Eva Brunne wanted to do, the Bishop of Stockholm. And
it's a lesbian bishop.
Yeah, I think that the Anglican Church actually boycotted her investment ceremony because they, you know, okay, guys, look. If you want to be a lesbian, that's fine, but the scripture is pretty clear. The scripture is pretty clear.
Yeah.
And she wanted to remove the cross from the church and install an arrow pointing out the direction of Mecca. I mean, this is a thing with Sweden, or as it used to be. I hope it's going to change, but you know, you have all these parodies on the internet, you know, like Tolerant Sweden Ball, Allahu Akbar, and so on and so forth. Life trumps art.
Yeah.
It's I think that, you know, you can get a lot of satire material just from reading the contemporary Swedish news.
Yeah, basically, I mean, I usually say that the left killed satire, and in Sweden it's definitely true. The satire just disappeared.
The left is the satire.
Yeah, a friend of mine says, "Oh my God, leftists can't meme," and I'm like, "No, mate, the left is the meme." Yeah. Right. We're gonna try to go by boat till Stockholm, so we'll get more footage for you, but no promises. And then I guess I should hurry up because we also have a podcast to do, and at least that one will be live.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna, I don't know, make some further comment very late in the night, maybe.
Yeah.
And that will be pretty much this is pretty much the end of this year's Swedish tour. Maybe next year we'll make something bigger and something nicer. Cheers.